Hi, this is Gary Simmons, and I'm here today with Vaughn Garey. We're discussing a few of the major topics on health issues that seem to be permeating society today. And Vaughn is a good friend of mine. He's been teaching me and helping me to learn about these topics. And Vaughn, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, yeah, my name is Vaughn Garey. I am a certified holistic counselor with a pretty deep background in fitness and nutrition. I have a master's in human science. I went to med school for a while. I've been working as a holistic counselor for about 10 years. And I really try to explore all of the various facets of what sort of contributes to an optimal life and optimal health in general. So I look at nutrition, I look at supplements, I look at fitness, I look at the mind-body connection, I look at ways of sort of using all of these things together in synergies to help people live the healthiest lives possible. And our real intention with these series of videos that we're going to be bringing to you is to sort of break down the major topics in health and wellness as far as Gary and I see them into digestible chunks and deliver them to you at home.
Great. Well, the first topic I wanted to cover is something that a lot of people have questions about, and that's the whole subject of fats in the diet. And for a long time there was this low-fat, no-fat type of diet, which a lot of people understand now that that's just not the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. But there are so many different kinds of fats. There's saturated fats, unsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats,
sure,
mono this and mono that. And so can you just chunk it down into something that's easily understandable and then help me to know how to apply it, like in an everyday, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How does
Absolutely.
that work? Yeah.
Well, this can get a bit complex, and I've actually done one video just on saturated versus unsaturated fat. But as a general rule, saturated fats are animal fats, not an absolute rule. There are some saturated non-animal fats, but as a general rule, saturated fats are animal fats. Unsaturated fats are vegetable fats. Saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature. Unsaturated fats tend to be liquid at room temperature. And the old school thinking was that saturated fats are bad for you, whereas unsaturated fats are good for you. Now that's really not true. It's not true in any way. Saturated fat is not bad for you when consumed in moderation. Saturated fats are very helpful. They are necessary components of the structure of a lot of cells. Your body makes a lot of essential chemistry out of saturated fats. They're also extremely filling. Sometimes we like to say when you hear saturated, think satisfied. Saturated fats are a lot of what really fills your body up. And they're actually, they function as carriers for vitamins and minerals. So saturated fat can be good for you. The key is moderation. And around 2 tablespoons of saturated fat a day is pretty good for most people. That can be in the form of 2 tablespoons of butter, organic butter always, grass-fed if possible, or it can be relatively lean servings of red meat, or it can be servings of, even chicken, turkey. As those types of birds get fattier, they also carry saturated fats. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with consistent and moderate consumption of saturated fat in the diet. Now, polyunsaturated fats, there are wide classes of polyunsaturated fats. And you hear about omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats. Maybe you've heard of omega-9 fats. Those are all different kinds of polyunsaturated fats. And that word omega really refers to characteristics of the chemical structures of those fats. It's a little complex. But as a general rule, omega-3 fats are anti-inflammatory, and we don't consume enough of them. And omega-6 fats are pro-inflammatory, we consume too many of them. Omega-9 fats are sort of generally beneficial, generally healthful. And omega-9 fats, olive oil is the superstar. Almonds also contain a lot of healthy omega-9 fat. Omega-6 fats are healthful, but again, the average diet already has too much. And you find omega-6 fats in soy oil, corn oil, vegetable oils. A lot of nuts contain omega-6 fats. Omega-3 fats are dominant in fish oils. And there are a few vegetable sources. There's chia seeds, there's flax seeds, and of course they're also something that's very beneficial to supplement. Okay,
so I've also heard the term oxidative stress in terms of fat, like the omega-6 fats that, yeah, they're okay for you, they're good for you, but too much, like you say, the ratios have gone way overboard where we have so much of the omega-6s, but then the cholesterol or the LDL actually becomes oxidated.
Yeah, this is a very good thing to understand. So cholesterol, for one thing, is a little bit different from fat. Cholesterol is a very specific molecule, and cholesterol in and of itself doesn't damage the lining of arteries, it doesn't form plaques. When cholesterol becomes oxidized, it tends to congeal together and get bound up with platelets and with other stuff flowing through the circulatory system, and it forms plaques that do line arteries, which can then break off and cause cardiac events, strokes, can hit the lungs and cause emboli in the lungs. And so inflammation is really the demon that turns relatively harmless cholesterol into harmful plaques. Now, omega-6 fats basically create chemicals that drive inflammation. And in and of itself, this is not a problem. Inflammation is not bad for us. Without inflammation, we couldn't live. Inflammation is a critical part of your body's immune system. The problem is when there's too much inflammation and not enough of the chemistry that counters inflammation. So inflammation and anti-inflammation need to exist in a balance. And when you look at the diets of hunter-gatherers, when you look at the diets of the healthiest people on Earth, they consume omega-6 fats, which cause inflammation, in relatively equal ratios to omega-3 fats, which reduce inflammation. The average American, on the flip side, consumes about 20 times as much omega-6 fat as omega-3 fat. So as a result, their whole system is biased in this pro-inflammatory direction, and that makes high cholesterol, or even average cholesterol numbers, it makes it far more likely that that cholesterol, that circulating cholesterol, will form plaques in artery walls that can break off and cause these adverse events.
Okay, so what you're saying is we need a balance.
Yes.
And then how do you do it in modern society?
Absolutely.
How do you get the balance between the omega-6s and the omega-3s?
Sure. Well, one thing is to reduce your unnecessary consumption of omega-6 fats, and one of the fastest ways to do that is to cut out most commercial oils. Commercial salad dressing is a very rich source of omega-6 intake. Soy oils, corn oils, very rich source of omega-6, and that's one of the biggest problems is commercial oil consumption. Processed foods in general are very rich in omega-6s. Of course, on the flip side, you can increase your intake of omega-3s, and eating cold water fish is absolutely great, but really there's a logic for almost everyone to supplementing with omega-3s. I sometimes say there's only maybe 2 or 3 supplements that I recommend to virtually everyone that I work with, and omega-3s are right at the top of the list, because given the constraints in our diet, it is difficult to get adequate consumption. And even if you do consume a lot of healthy meat and fish, the problem is that even the high quality meat and fish in our culture generally is raised on diets that aren't that healthy for the animals. And as a result, the literal tissue of the animals isn't the same as it would be in an ideal state of nature. And so some levels of supplementation make sense. And omega-3s are one of the critical nutrients that we mostly only get from animal consumption. And it's virtually impossible to get an optimum level of omega-3 from the diet. So I think supplementation is great. Reducing commercial oil consumption is great. And eating truly free-range poultry, truly grass-fed red meat, and of course wild-caught fish, especially wild-caught salmon.
Okay, so these are complete whole topics that we need to do videos on.
Sure.
Like, where do I get my grass-fed beef?
That's
the
topic. Sure.
I was at Whole Foods, and when you read the signs, it says vegetarian diet, but then that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a grain-fed vegetarian diet.
It's a grain-fed vegetarian diet as opposed to an organic environment where the beef is actually raised just eating in the pasture.
And most people need to find some sort of cooperative arrangement. They need to find a local farm that delivers or something like that.
Well, I did
It's
notice,
getting more common. A lot of health food stores now carry grass-fed beef. It is getting more common, but many people find
I noticed that Whole Foods at times will
sometimes
have
it's transient, yes.
Arrangements with local farms in the area where you will get the grass-fed beef. So that's a good thing. Okay, so we covered the omega-3s, the omega-6s, the saturated, the unsaturated. Is there any other tips about how to adjust your diet to sort of veer away from the processed foods and the processed oils, like red flags on that, and then how to substitute? I know this is a whole other topic.
Absolutely.
But just in a nutshell, is there any one thing that I can do to just improve that?
One of the simplest practical tips is to make a few tasty salad dressing recipes at home. One of the simplest is to combine olive oil with balsamic vinegar, a little bit of Dijon mustard, and a little bit of garlic, and mix that up. You can also find some healthy Caesar salad dressings. They're a little more complex. You can Google search them. And if you Google Caesar salad, look for one that's olive oil with no dairy, no mayonnaise. And if you have some healthy salad oils in your fridge, and most people should be eating more salad anyway, it's sort of like a no-brainer. You only need to make these up once a week, and then it becomes much easier to eat healthy salads with healthy fats in them. It's good. A little practical.